Most people make the same mistake when dealing with enemies. They react. They argue. They defend themselves. They fight every accusation, every insult, every attack. And without realizing it, they step directly into the trap. Because many enemies don't want victory. They want reaction. They want your attention, your energy, your emotions, your focus. The moment they get those things, they've already won. But history teaches a different lesson. The most powerful people rarely destroy their enemies through force. They destroy them through patience, through discipline, through restraint, and through a deep understanding of human nature. Today you'll learn why your greatest weapon is often the one you never use, and how the right response can cause your enemies to defeat themselves without you lifting a finger. The mistake that makes enemies stronger: imagine throwing gasoline onto a fire. What happens? It grows. It spreads. It becomes more dangerous. Reaction works the same way. Every emotional outburst, every angry response, every desperate attempt to defend yourself adds fuel to the situation. Many people believe they are fighting back, but in reality, they are feeding the very thing they want to destroy. Some enemies survive entirely because of your reaction. Without it, they have nothing. No conflict, no attention, no emotional leverage. This is why emotional control is often the first victory. Because the person who controls their emotions controls the battlefield. The power of strategic silence. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of power. People assume silence means weakness, submission, fear. But often it means the exact opposite. Silence forces people to confront themselves. Think about what happens when someone attacks you expecting a reaction. They prepare for an argument. They prepare for conflict. They prepare for resistance. And then, nothing happens. Suddenly the dynamic changes. Now they're left alone with their own behavior, their own words, their own emotions. Without resistance, their actions become far more visible. Many people expose themselves when nobody interrupts them. They reveal their character, their insecurity, their desperation, all because they expected a fight and never got one. When ego becomes the enemy, one of the greatest weaknesses in human psychology is ego. An uncontrolled ego constantly seeks validation, recognition, superiority, the need to win. And eventually, that need becomes self-destructive. Watch what happens when arrogant people believe they're untouchable. They become careless, overconfident, reckless. They talk too much, reveal too much, push too far. The very traits that once gave them power become the reason they fail. Many people don't need external enemies. Their ego becomes their enemy. And if you're patient enough, you'll often watch them create problems entirely on their own. The law of reputation. Most people underestimate reputation. They focus on immediate victories, immediate arguments, immediate satisfaction. But reputation operates differently. Reputation grows slowly and collapses slowly. Imagine two people. One remains calm, consistent, professional. The other constantly creates conflict, complains, attacks, gossips, manipulates. At first, observers may not notice much difference. But over time, patterns become impossible to ignore. People begin drawing conclusions. Trust begins shifting. Credibility begins moving. And eventually the person creating chaos becomes trapped by their own reputation. Not because someone destroyed them, because they built their own downfall one action at a time. The trap they never see coming. The most dangerous trap is rarely set by another person. It's set by human nature itself. When people become obsessed with defeating someone, they stop focusing on themselves. Their attention narrows. Their judgment weakens. Their emotions take control. And suddenly their entire identity revolves around a conflict. This is where self-destruction begins. Because obsession destroys perspective. The enemy becomes so focused on harming you that they neglect their own growth, their own goals, their own future. Meanwhile, you continue building, learning, improving, advancing. Without realizing it, they've turned themselves into the obstacle standing in their own way. Why success is the ultimate response. Many people want revenge. It's understandable. Being attacked hurts. Being betrayed hurts. Being underestimated hurts. But revenge often creates a strange problem. It keeps you emotionally attached to the very thing you're trying to escape. You're still focused on them. Still thinking about them. Still investing energy into them. True power comes from redirecting that energy toward your goals, your skills, your health, your future. Because success creates something revenge never can. Freedom. And freedom is far more valuable than temporary satisfaction. The best response to many enemies is not defeating them. It's becoming so focused on your own growth that they become irrelevant. When time reveals everything, time has a remarkable way of exposing reality. Masks become difficult to maintain. Lies become difficult to remember. Manipulation becomes difficult to sustain. Eventually patterns emerge. People see what was previously hidden. The truth surfaces. Not because someone forced it. Because reality eventually catches up. This is why patient people often appear powerful. They understand something most people forget. Not every battle requires immediate action. Some battles simply require time. And time often accomplishes what force never could. The final shift, become impossible to distract. The highest form of victory is not defeating your enemies. It's refusing to become one. Refusing to become consumed by anger. Consumed by resentment. Consumed by bitterness. Because those emotions create prisons. And many people spend years trapped inside them. The strongest individuals understand a different path. Observe. Learn. Adapt. Move forward. Protect your peace. Protect your focus. And never allow someone else's behavior to dictate the direction of your life. Because once you become impossible to distract, you become incredibly difficult to defeat. Final reflection: your enemies often believe they are fighting you. But many are actually fighting themselves. Their ego. Their impatience. Their obsession. Their inability to control their emotions. You don't need to participate in every battle. You don't need to answer every attack. You don't need to prove yourself to every critic. Sometimes the most powerful move is restraint. Because while others waste energy creating chaos, you remain focused on building a life they cannot disrupt. And in the end, that is often the greatest victory of all.